Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Grand Rounds. I'm Kaz Nelson, Vice Chair of Education for the Department of Psychiatry. It's my pleasure to welcome you. And today is a very special presentation. Twice a year, we've been making a push in our department to honor education and our education mission, and lucky to have departmental support in inviting an outside speaker on an education-related topic. And this year, we've asked Dr. Jacqueline Hobbs from the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, to be our invited guest on this topic. A little bit more about Dr. Hobbs. She's an associate professor of psychiatry, vice chair for education, and also the residency training director at the University of Florida College of Medicine in Gainesville. She's a distinguished fellow of the American Psychiatric Association. Her clinical interests are in women's mental health, particularly during pregnancy and postpartum, and thyroid-related psychiatric issues. Her research interests include viral etiologies of mental illness and gene therapy. And you can see from her slide she has both an MD and PhD in psychiatry and then also virology. I know Dr. Hobbs because we co-chair the American Association Directors of Psychiatry Residency Training, ADPERT, Curriculum Committee. And we've been working hard as co-chairs of this committee to make high-quality curriculum available to residency training programs across the nation, and that's really our mission. And we've had a lot of fun doing that, and I was honored to be able to meet with your residents and talk with them about their curriculum development. And I'm very thankful that you were able to join us for a 7:30 breakfast on a rainy October morning to be able to meet our residents and hear about what they've been working on and provide them some mentorship and guidance. And also, Dr. Hobbs was gracious enough to have individual meetings with our faculty and trainees on their curricula and projects they've been working on to provide guidance. And so it's been a whirlwind trip, and you've helped us in a number of ways in a short period of time, but we're thrilled to welcome you here and look very much looking forward to your presentation. And there'll be an opportunity for some discussion and question afterwards, so save up your questions so we can address those.
Yeah, great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that gracious introduction, Kaz. I am very grateful to be here, to have the opportunity to come meet with several of you and talk about our education mission together. And as Kaz said, to try to get good, high quality materials out there for programs, program directors, and faculty so that they can teach all of those things that we're supposed to be teaching residents. And I think training our residents and other faculty and staff to get involved in the education mission is very, very important. So I know today's Grand Rounds will be a little bit different, maybe than some that you're used to. But I hope you'll enjoy talking about this, and I'd really like to, hear your questions and discussion about this topic. So we're going to talk about how to create model curricula, and just getting started with that. I first of all wanted to show you a little bit, what our campus and area looks like. So this is in Gainesville, and this is our brand new Harrell Education Building here. It's a state-of-the-art education building, and it's a fantastic place to teach. So if you ever get a chance to come there and see it, I highly recommend that you take a tour of this building. And of course, I cannot, I have to represent, the University of Florida and the Gators. This is, an absolute must to have some sort of picture, of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. It is quite an amazing place as well. So most people will go see Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, but we hope you get down to the education building as well. And then these are the real Gators. And I'm from Indiana. And so I had no idea. I will no longer swim in any water that I cannot see through. Just just to pay homage to our friends in the swamp.
There are elevators on campus.
Oh, there are. Oh, on my campus. I was going to say they're here. Oh my gosh, it's too cold. No, yes. So yes, if you walk around campus, there are little streams and bodies of water all over our campus. And, if you look carefully, you will often see gators in those. So you do have to be very careful when you walk by any body of water on our campus. So, all right, just some disclosures. As most of you know, we don't make a lot of money in education, so there's really nothing to disclose. And I think the biggest thing is this last bullet is that, what we do with our academic presentations, and as we're going to talk about with designing curricula that we put out there for peer review, that we are doing all of that to support our application for promotion in the academic scheme. So, I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as you think about, what it is we're trying to accomplish here. So, we're going to discuss the purpose and benefits of developing your curricula. We're going to identify the critical components of those curricula, and hopefully this will get you excited and enthusiastic about transforming some of the things you already do every day and make them into curricula that can be shared with others and get your work out there. So, as Cass said, we're part of the AdPERT curriculum committee, the co-chairs of that. This committee, we're trying to broaden that. I think Kaz is doing, a lot of PR for that to try to make sure that we get not just model curricula, sometimes that can sound a little daunting to people, but to really just get training resources in general. Still good quality, but get, as many resources available as possible to our programs so they can teach residents and medical students. So she's definitely leading the charge on that. So why would you put together a curriculum, a model curriculum? Well, there's many reasons. We have a lot of requirements from the ACGME to train residents very broadly. So there's lots of different topics, and no one person can be the expert on everything. So I know your training director, she knows a lot, but she can't know everything. I can't know everything. And so, being able to share the things that we individually have expertise in with others can be a great help to training programs. There are curricula already available on the AdPERT website, and just so you know, that website has been going through a transition, and we're getting to a new website design, so there may be a few hiccups here and there, but Kaz can help you navigate that. But there are curricula that have already been approved in some of these areas. However, I don't want that just because you thought, oh, I wanted to develop a professionalism curriculum. That should not stop you. Because what is professionalism? Well, that's a pretty broad topic. So there's lots of different ways that you can go about this. And perhaps you have an innovative way of doing that. So don't just because there is something here, it doesn't mean that we don't need more. Okay? But if you want ideas on how to write curricula, this is where you can get that. I will use this slide to speak a lot to our faculty, especially young faculty who are starting out, and even some residents who are thinking about becoming faculty members. If you know something about the milestones, you know that it goes from level 1 to level 5. We usually expect our residents to attain approximately a level 4 by the time they graduate. But there's that level 5. What does that mean? Well, that's for it's really for those who are out in early practice, the early years, and it's a spectrum. So we should continue to develop ourselves on the spectrum of the milestones. So there is a teaching subcompetency, and so, the level 5 for that particular one under the problem-based learning and improvement is that we should be educating broader professional community and the public. We'd be presenting at regional or national meetings. That's what we strive for as faculty members. And that we should be organizing and developing curriculum materials. So there's sort of that push there for our natural development as faculty to be able to do this. So you'll be able to attain your level 5 by doing this. So what else is in it for you? Well, it is, if you submit this curriculum through something like the AdPERT Curriculum Committee, it gets peer reviewed. So just like a manuscript that you submit to a journal, just like a grant that you submit to whatever agency that might be, NIH or some foundation, you will get peer review. You will get comments back. You will get things that can help you to improve your curriculum just prior to it getting finally approved for the website. So it's a scholarly product, and in most institutions that's going to count at least in some part on you for your promotion as a faculty member. We have to do an education portfolio. I assume it's fairly similar here. And there are parts of that where you design new curricula or design new learning materials, and that can definitely be there. And having that peer review aspect of it, I think, makes it even stronger. By putting your work out there, you become the content experts. So people will seek you out, and they will email you. They will find you at meetings, and they will say, hey, I really like what you're doing here. I want to learn more. So you become the expert. And that's what we like that, right? It feels good when that happens. Also, you might get feedback. You might get that good, warm, fuzzy, positive, I really love this. Or you might say, we tried this and we found that something else worked a little bit better, at least for us. And that's something to think about. It could help you to further improve your curriculum. And this is not just for MDs. So it's this, a lot of this may sound like it's a lot for faculty, for the attendings, for the residents, but it's a good way to get other team members involved, as nurses, psychologists, social workers, who might have expertise in particular areas and can, they can write their own curricula and partner with CAS to submit that, or again, be a part of a team that puts this together. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about the nitty-gritty parts of a model curriculum. And I think you'll get a sense that this will look a little bit like if you were trying to put together a workshop or an abstract or a paper, that you wanted to submit otherwise. So it's not rocket science. It's something that you're probably already doing. So, of course, you have title page, you have table of contents. Being organized, as you'll see a little later, is very important. You want it to make sense, you want it to flow, you want it to be easy for people to find things. And not just the people who ultimately use it, but also the reviewers. That's always my advice to residents and anybody who's starting out doing any kind of writing, and grant writing or paper submissions, whatever. Make it easy for the reviewer. Lead them through things so that because they're just like you. They're working hard all day, and they're probably doing their reviewing at night on weekends. So you want to make it as pleasant and easy for them as possible. You want to have an introduction and background, and it can be fairly short, just depending on your topic and how extensive it or not that it is. But if it's something, we were talking about this morning in one of the individual meetings, that if it's a really brand new concept, new way of thinking, new way of doing something, you might have to expand that a little bit more. But it can be pretty brief. And you want to just kind of say, just like if you were trying to convince somebody to give you money for a grant, why is this important? Well, we're trying to meet some ACGME requirements, meet some milestones. Maybe there are certain regulatory agencies, clinical regulatory agencies, that might have a reason why they may have requirements that we want to meet. Our board requirements. Just kind of spell that out for everyone. Do some review of the literature, see what's out there. Again, you kind of want to separate out like what you're doing a little bit differently. That can give you a few extra points for innovation, for instance. You give an overview of your curriculum, just a few paragraphs kind of describing the course. You want to make it very clear, like, how long do you anticipate that this would take? Is it just going to be a couple of 1-hour didactic sessions? Or is it something that, you're going to do over the course, say, of a whole semester, several, like 12 weeks or something like that? And, give a sense of what kinds of activities would be involved in it, whether there's going to be PowerPoint presentations or any kind of clinical experience, small group discussions, those sorts of things. And then, of course, as much as you can, what kind of outcomes you would like to achieve. That's a big thing with ACGME now, is it's all about outcomes and what are we measuring. As with anything in education, like with the CME event today, we have to have goals and objectives, and those can be fairly succinct. Three objectives would be perfectly fine. Just depends, again, on how extensive your curriculum is. And you may have different objectives for different sessions, perhaps, but it could be overall objectives. Then you give an outline, sort of a syllabus for what you would do. Week 1, we'll cover this topic. We'll do this particular activity. And then the biggest part, I think the hardest part of the whole thing, and very important part, is the curriculum or faculty guide. So you really have to take a step out. You have to kind of it's like you're going to watch yourself and say, how is it that I'm teaching this? And how can I explain to someone else how to teach this? Because remember, that person may have never taught this material before. So you want to make it sort of as clear-cut as possible. So even if you just have a PowerPoint presentation, you want to have some notes about other things you would want to discuss that you're not going to crowd the slides up with. So you can either put that in the notes of your PowerPoint, or you can have sort of that separate guide of what to do. What would be the discussion questions you would throw out, and what would be some expected answers? Evaluation tools. Very important in education. We all know that, what is the outcome of what we're doing? This can be as simple as a 5-question pre and post test. Again, depending on how extensive your curriculum is. That's usually, sufficient for a lot of things. You can also do, pre and post just a survey of, does the learner feel like how confident are they in what they know versus before and after. So you have to have something in this area. And again, the more you can do with that, hey, that's going to get you extra points, right? But at least have something with this. And again, there are examples on the website. Adaptability and innovation. We say these are optional. However, part of our mission is to try to make these curricula something that can be easily used by other programs. And you got to remember that not every program is the same size as yours. So there are some programs that are very small, have very small faculty, may not have broad expertise in some of these topics. So think about that. Think about how you can make this so easy, so simple. I know when we're reviewing curricula, one of the things we often say is, I could take that right now and go teach it. I could just walk in and I could do this. When you can do that, you score big points in this adaptability, portability category, and it does go a long way. Innovation, again, a lot of the topics we're teaching, they're not new, it's not earth-shattering kind of stuff, but maybe just the way you're doing it is a little bit different. You're using a new technique, just think of ways that you feel like yours is different. It's not going to be like, we're not going to expect you to come up with the next Nobel Prize winning theory on something. So don't be overwhelmed by that. Don't consider that a daunting thing. I would say that's a lot more optional. Just like usual, acknowledgments, if there's anyone in particular that's contributed to this that otherwise wouldn't be an author, for instance. And references and bibliography, we do expect, pretty up-to-date references as much as possible. And sometimes it's very important because you may reference a particular book or a particular paper. There may be a paper that you would like residents to read ahead of time. I know that's asking a lot sometimes, but I know I was a resident. I feel like if I read half of the stuff I was assigned, I was doing pretty well. So I get it. But that would be the place to put those things. And also you can then have your appendix that has all of your handouts and worksheets, slides, vignettes. Vignettes are great. I think all of us who do resident education know that anytime we can make this seem a little more real, and put it in the context of the clinical situation is better. Simulations, role plays, kind of maybe the scripts for those, if it's a little more complicated. Evaluation tools, anything that you think will be helpful and useful. So I've kind of alluded to this along the way, kind of what are the criteria, what are we looking for, what's the peer review group looking for, and I think some people are kind of like, who are these people, and are they going to be, are they going to be mean? I think these are very friendly people who really want to help and they want to learn, and they want to be on the committee to see what all's out there, so they're just very interested, and they give really good, helpful feedback. It's a very positive experience, I think. So we're looking at things like, again, how organized it is. Does it make sense? Does it flow? How comprehensive is it? Again, that's going to depend on the topic. There's some topics where you need to be very expanded on certain things, but then there's some, and we're going to talk about, there's some topics where they're short, so don't think that you have to write, a dissertation to get one of these through. I mean, it can be pretty short, actually. The overall quality of the materials, innovation is a plus, but not absolute. The guide. That's the thing that we're really going to look at to help people to actually teach this. Evaluation tools, make sure they're there. The bibliography, and again, kind of how adaptable is this? So here's a little scenario. Some of you who have taught before, whether you're residents or faculty, you may have heard this kind of thing, right? Somebody comes up to you and says, I've been teaching this topic for so long. I've got all these slides. Everything is ready to go. I just don't have time to teach it anymore. I'd like to pass it on to you. You'd be great at this, right? We've all heard this. Has anybody tried to do that before? It's not easy, right? Like picking up someone's slides, it's great, it's wonderful, it's a lot of information, but then when you actually try to do it, if you just use their slides, it can be very difficult. So, you need to know more. Somebody says, oh, this is, topic, resource management, it's new, it's important. Every time I've taught it, they love it. It's going to go over so well, right? Well, again, it's not easy to just pick up where someone else, and this person likely is an expert on this, right? So that's where it kind of gets into this, how do you guide someone through teaching something that they don't necessarily know everything about? I mean, we're all psychiatrists, we're working the psychiatric field, and we have a basic understanding of a lot of things, but we don't have that in-depth knowledge of everything. So, again, think of it from the user's perspective, okay? If they're going to run your great course, what do they really need to know? So I mentioned that there's, another way to go about this. So you don't have to have these large, extensive curricula. Those are great, and we want you to submit those. We love those. But there's something else called a Milestone Toolkit. So, I think we're all still trying to work with the milestones. I think we have a better understanding of them, but even ACGME is struggling with what do we do with this? What do we do with all the data? But, so our biggest task in training is to be able to actually assess these milestones, the many of them that there are. So you can actually write a curriculum, sort of a mini curriculum, that focuses on a specific milestone, just one milestone, or maybe two milestones, or a few, and put that together. It could be as short as 1 to 2 sessions, or various exercises, assessment tools that you put together. Again, not nearly as long or as comprehensive as the model curriculum. Again, could just be some sort of assessment tool, like maybe you have the best test for for this, or you have some sort of clinical scenario that a resident could work through that would count for this. And again, something that would be easy for a program to download and run with. They can take your tool, they can use it, and they can assess their residents on that particular milestone. So I think of these as sort of like a brief report. Like if you were writing a manuscript, sometimes journals will take brief reports. when you have something that's kind of new or, you don't have a lot of information on, but it's a hot topic sort of thing. So brief versus full-length reports. And again, kind of bite size. So again, for instance, if you wanted to do something on root cause analysis for your level 4 milestone here, you could put together, and I will just say, one of the biggest things we talk about in our institution is putting together a mock RCA, or mock root cause analysis. So if you could come up with a vignette and a case, and getting these to be specialty specific, so like we want something specific to psychiatry, like what would that case look like? What would that vignette look like? And then, how would you lead somebody through a root cause analysis of that case? So, and I don't think anybody's got the market cornered on this. There's very little out there. And I think that if, we can take multiple of these, because every case is going to be a little bit different, right? So there are so many opportunities to do this. And this is just to kind of tell you, there's less sort of requirement for the Milestone Toolkit versus the model curriculum, which I think, should be fairly evident. And as you can see, when we've done previous reviews, this is a little bit older data now, because we have a new system, and I'll be telling you a little bit about that. But you can see most of the time people can get these things, in terms of, organization, how comprehensive, and the quality of it. So the scores from the reviewers are pretty high. It's the things here, these things that are either missing. That often happens, that we don't get those things, and that's why I'm stressing to make sure that you get something in there, or they need a little more work. So, I think the next steps for those of you out there thinking about this, I know you're doing this, so you're teaching things all the time. You do it almost every day, right? How can you turn some of those great things you're doing into a curriculum, either a model curriculum or a Milestone Toolkit? Think about how you can make this transformation. And then the other thing is to get some help. Medical students, can be very helpful, in putting some of these things together, helping you do some of the background work. They want to get involved. They want to learn. And, you help each other out. You mentor them in the process. So think about that. You are not alone. And that's an important thing for young faculty, I think, to think about, is to, not try to tackle, solve all the world's problems all by yourself. All right. So if you want to submit, now one of the things, we were talking about this morning, is that you do have to be a member of ADPERT. And so if you are not, so you have to be a program director, associate program director, or coordinators are members. But if you want to submit and you're not in that category, you can actually work with your program director to submit. So the program director can act as a corresponding author for these, or submitter. So it's easy. Again, it's all online now. You just log in, you submit curriculum, you hit it again because it gives you like the ones that you have, that you're working on. And that's the thing. You can work on this gradually and save things as you go along. And then you have your primary author. And then, as I said, you have your corresponding author, which would, again, just be your program director or associate program director. And it's really good for them to look at your stuff ahead of time, because they can help you see any kind of pitfalls that there might be and help you get it in the best shape so the submission will go very quickly. And then you're uploading documents, you're uploading your PowerPoints and your handouts and those sorts of things. And it tells you what kind of documents you can actually upload. All right, so it's a pretty simple thing to actually get it submitted. And we're working very hard to make the turnaround time very quick. We're hoping for no more than a month or so turnaround. So that's pretty quick. What are the rewards of this? What else can you do with your curricula? Once you get it into that form, wow, you have so many things you can do. You can submit a poster to a conference that describes your curriculum. You can even submit posters about things you're trying to design, just depending on the meeting and what kinds of submissions they will allow. You can submit it to MedEd Portal, so if you can make it so that it's for medical education, for medical students, and I know Kaz has experience with that. You can present a workshop on this, and ultimately you can write a manuscript for one of our academic journals, or Academic Psychiatry, for instance. There are all kinds of ways to get your work out there, so you can take one thing and make it into several scholarly products. So this is just the MedEd portal, just as an example of how you would submit to that as well. So that's kind of the model curriculum idea in a nutshell. And I know Kaz is available to you. You can email me. Sometimes it's nice to get some outside eyes to look at what's going on and help you a little bit with your curriculum. So we're happy to do that. We're in the business of getting as many curricula out there as possible. So please feel free to contact us with any questions. I will take questions and discussion.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you so much. I was hoping that you could share with the audience a little bit about what you were, for example, you have a faculty member who's contemplating this and thinking, oh gosh, this sounds like a big deal or kind of difficult, and you were trying to provide some reassurance on their specific situation.
Yeah. So, I was telling Kaz about this last night. I have a junior faculty member who, she's very busy clinically. So she's kind of like, but she wants to be involved in education and she wants to get promoted. So, she wants to do all these good things. She wants to teach. She loves to teach. So, we had this group that was working on a project, and one of the thoughts we came up with was to develop an ethics curriculum. We thought of her to do this because most of us already had lots of other projects going on, and we just didn't feel like we had the time or the expertise to devote to this. But we were willing to help her. And so my chair was like, I don't think she, wants to do this or she feels comfortable doing this. And I said, but I know she can do it, So we encouraged her to think about it. And so she said she went home and locked herself in her bedroom one night, and she just started writing her curriculum, her thoughts, and outlining what she would like to do with that. And she sent it to me, and I said, "Wow, you are way more than halfway there." She had a significant portion of it done. So. Someone you can think, I'm not, I don't have a PhD in this or whatever. You don't have to have that. You have to have the passion to do it and some understanding of the material and the willingness to work with others who can help you. I mean, we have ethicists on our faculty that we can get to look over these things as well. So, it can be a team effort, but for that faculty member, we consider her. She's the lead. She's the one driving it, and it's really exciting to see her doing that. So,
Hey, other questions?
Yep.
Where? The light was in my eyes.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you. I think a lot of us as junior faculty or faculty that are very busy are kind of in the same place as your junior faculty member was. We have all these good ideas, but never the time or nor the confidence to do it. And so you said when she put it down on paper, she had about 50% of it already. But for somebody who hasn't thought through that, what is a time frame you're looking at, and does your faculty have predicted time to pursue these scholarly activities?
Yeah, well, our faculty usually technically are 80 to 90%, a lot of our faculty are 80 to 90% clinical, right? And part of that is clinical teaching, but they don't have a lot of protected time, even though they're supposed to have this 10%. We all know how it is when you're trying to take care of patients. The time bleeds over and it becomes hard. But it's one of those things where I think that, if you have people to support you, like you have people like Kaz here who can support you and help you figure out how to do this so that it really doesn't take quite as much time. And if I were you, I would really try to think about some of these things like Milestone Toolkits, where you can really just focus in on one thing and have it be much shorter, and you'll get your confidence going once you start and you get this done. And then you can start to tackle bigger things. So a milestone toolkit really, I think you could, write it and get it done over, depending on how much you know about it, more like days to weeks, honestly. That's how it should really kind of be. And then, get some feedback and some critique from that.
Especially if it's something that you've already implemented, trying
Yes.
to solve some internal problem.
Right.
So I think
Right.
sometimes I've observed faculty members get caught up in what grand new initiative am I going to launch now versus
Yeah.
looking at the problems they've already solved in the past couple of
Right.
years to address a challenge meaningfully and capitalizing on some of those interventions and sharing that.
Right. What do you teach right now that you do get rave reviews for in your own program that I'm sure other programs would love to hear about and be able to do the same?
Outpatient clinic for child fellows. And so, is there a curriculum? Because I have gone back and looked at any kind of guideline or curriculum. What are your thoughts on an outpatient curriculum for fellows or residents? Has anybody?
I don't think that there's very much
Exactly.
out there at all. I think that outpatient is one of those things that sort of gets, it's not focused on much at all.
Is that something you'd encourage someone to pursue, or is it because there's so many players in that, like 4 or 5 faculty teach, but a comprehensive curriculum would be worth our time?
Yeah, what are the most important topics to cover for an outpatient curriculum? You can start with one. Again, it could meet some milestone, or then you could put several of them together to have a course on that. Yeah, people are doing this stuff every day, and they're not capitalizing on it.
Other questions or comments?
A logistical question. How do we access the curricula that you have on the your website that only Dr. if Dr. Nelson is gone and I want to access a curriculum from that website,
Yeah, I think that right now it's still, the last I looked, it was still on the old, which they were supposed to have already taken that down. So again, it's still in this little bit of limbo. So right now, you do kind of have to ask us, but hopefully we'll get that.
There'll be public access at some
Yeah.
point.
Enough people have asked me for this that I have it attached to an email. I have all of them attached as PDFs to an email.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
send anybody the email who wants to review these.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's a couple of us here from outpatient mental health and from 55 plus seniors, adult day treatment, and then
Yep.
we have other colleagues in MICD and partial. And I think we'd be happy to partner with you if you wanted to do any curriculum.
Yeah, I think that would be
Thank you.
great. Yeah, so that's the great thing about these things when you come to these talks and, presentations, is that you learn that there are people with like minds, and it's much easier to do these things as a team, and break it down and have different people do different parts.
We are already familiar with the concept of team science. Now we need team teaching.
Exactly.
Team education.
Right.
Yep. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have been